is a commodity, and for Ty Rossi, fear was his fortune. With 10 million subscribers, Ty had built an empire by debunking the supernatural, spending nights in asylums and forests, always ending his videos with a smug smile and a logical explanation. But every empire needs a crown jewel. For Ty, that was 112 Cromwell Street, located in a quiet, affluent neighborhood in Connecticut. Cromwell Street was the site of the 1974 Blackwood Massacre, where a father systematically took the lives of his family, claiming a voice with yellow eyes told him they were demons. Since then, no family has lasted more than a month in that house. The stories are legendary: bleeding walls, swarms of flies in winter, and a secret room in the basement that doesn't appear on any blueprints. Ty arrived with a go big or go home attitude. He wasn't just staying the night. He was live streaming the entire 48-hour vigil. He mocked the yellow-eyed man legend, even bringing a Ouija board and a spirit box to summon the entity for the camera. For the first 6 hours, it was classic Ty poking fun at the creaking floors and the heavy atmosphere. But as the clock struck 3 a.m., the witching hour, the tone of the stream shifted. The live chat, usually full of jokes, went silent. A motion sensor in the nursery, where the youngest Blackwood child was found, began to trigger repeatedly. There was nothing there. No wind, no dust. Just the sensor light, blinking green, then red. Green, then red. These jokes became forced. His laughter had a sharp, brittle edge. By the end of part 1, Ty discovers the red room in the basement. It's a small, hidden crawl space behind the furnace. Inside, his thermal camera captures something impossible. The entire room is boiling hot 110 degrees, while the rest of the house is freezing. As he crawls inside, the heavy steel door slams shut behind him. The last shot of part 1 is his face in the dark, his bravado gone, whispering to his viewers, "Guys, the door is locked from the outside, and I'm supposed to be the only one in here." Asterisk is no longer a YouTube show. It is a record of a soul being dismantled. Ty Rossi spent 4 hours trapped in that basement room, and what he heard through the walls broke him. The voices weren't whispers. They were screams of the Blackwood family, replaying their final moments in a loop that vibrated through the very foundation of the house. When the door finally creaked open on its own, Ty didn't run for the exit. He couldn't. The house had changed. The hallways were no longer colonial wood and wallpaper. They were lined with what looked like charred, blackened skin. The smell was the most terrifying part, an overwhelming scent of ozone and burnt hair. These final hours were a descent into the overlap. He began to see himself on his own monitors. But the Ty on the screen was doing things he wasn't on the screen. He was stabbing the air, crying out in the same voice as the 1974 killer. He realized the house wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was a temporal trap. The entity at 112 Cromwell didn't want to kill him. It wanted to wear him. It needed a fresh vessel to continue the cycle. The climax occurs in the master bedroom. Ty is seen on his final working camera, pleading with his audience to call the police. But the audience, the millions of people watching, aren't seeing a man in trouble. Through a psychic distortion, they see Ty as a monster. They're cheering for his death in the comments. Their collective negative energy feeding the entity, making it stronger. The footage ends with Ty walking toward the camera, his face a mask of cold, ancient fury. He says one last thing before the feed cuts to a permanent no-signal screen. "Thank you for the views. I'm coming home to you now." The police arrived 2 hours later. They found the house empty. No Ty Rossi, no blood. Just his cameras, all neatly stacked in the center of the living room, still recording. But the memory cards were completely melted. To this day, followers of Ty Rossi report seeing a glitch in his old videos, a tall, yellow-eyed figure standing in the background of scenes where it wasn't there before. The stream never truly ended. It just moved to a different screen. In the annals of the supernatural, few names stir the blood quite like Blackwood Grange. Nestled deep within the desolate moors of Yorkshire, England, this imposing Victorian manor has stood for over a century. A monument to a wealthy family's ambition and, ultimately, their terrifying downfall. Its reputation isn't merely haunted. It's cursed, whispered about in hushed tones as a place where the very air breathes a malevolent intelligence. Our story follows Dr. Alistair Finch, a name synonymous with debunking the paranormal. Brilliant academic, a cynical rationalist, and a YouTube personality whose channel, The Logic of Shadows, meticulously dissects alleged supernatural phenomena, always finding the scientific explanation. He was, in essence, a ghost hunter who didn't believe in ghosts until Blackwood Grange. Dr. Finch was invited by the current absentee owner, a distant descendant, to cleanse the Grange of its reputation, to finally put to rest the ghost stories that plagued its lineage. His mission, a 3-day, tonight solo investigation. Armed with only his equipment and his unwavering skepticism, he arrived on a bleak autumn afternoon, the manor looming before him like a skeletal hand reaching from the earth. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the relentless wind that seemed to carry distant, unintelligible whispers. His initial survey revealed a house frozen in time. Dust motes danced in the shafts of gray light, illuminating heavy velvet curtains, antique furniture draped in white sheets, and a pervasive, sweet sickly scent that defied explanation. His thermal cameras immediately detected inexplicable cold spots that moved through rooms with an intelligence of their own. His EMF reader spiked wildly in the master bedroom, where the original Lord Blackwood, the manor's tyrannical patriarch, had taken his own life. In a fit of inexplicable madness, the first night was a slow descent into terror. Dr. Finch, ever the scientist, attempted to find logical explanations for every anomaly. The faint footsteps on the floor above, settling timber, the disembodied whispers in the drawing room, wind whizzing through loose panes, the feeling of being watched, the psychological effects of isolation. But the phenomena escalated with an insidious precision. Doors that he had meticulously secured would be found ajar. The heavy scent of decay would suddenly intensify, accompanied by a feeling of suffocating pressure, as if an invisible weight was pressing down on him. He began to record strange anomalies on his specialized spirit box, a device designed to sweep radio frequencies for EVP, electronic voice phenomena. Amidst the static, a pattern emerged, disembodied, guttural snarls, followed by fragments of words in a language he couldn't place, yet felt ancient, guttural, and deeply malevolent. And then a clear, desperate whisper from the darkness, repeating a single, chilling phrase: the hunger it needs. The true terror of Blackwood Grange lay not in its obvious haunting, but in its deliberate, psychological torment. It wasn't trying to scare him. It was trying to break him down piece by agonizing piece. Dr. Finch, the unwavering rationalist, found his carefully constructed worldview crumbling around him. The cold spots weren't random drafts. They were focused, icy fingers brushing against his skin. The whispers weren't the wind. They were calling his name, coaxing him, luring him towards the manor's oldest, darkest secret. As the first part of our story closes, Dr. Finch stands alone in the cavernous, silent dining hall, his breath misting in the frigid air, the single phrase echoing in his mind: the hunger it needs. He knows with a sickening certainty that he is no longer merely investigating a haunting. He is being hunted. The second night in Blackwood Grange was not a night of observation, but a night of survival. The entity, no longer subtle, revealed its true nature. The hunger wasn't just a whisper. It was a palpable force, a suffocating presence that wrapped around Dr. Finch. Pressing in from every shadow, he discovered the manor's deepest, most disturbing secret in the forgotten library. Tucked away behind a false bookshelf, he found the private diaries of Lady Eleanor Blackwood, Patriarch's wife. Her elegant handwriting chronicled not just her slow descent into madness, but a far more sinister truth. Lord Blackwood wasn't merely insane. He was obsessed with ancient, forbidden rituals performed deep within the manor's hidden crypt. He sought not wealth, but immortality, a twisted form of eternal life, drawing power from other things. Eleanor's final entry simply stated, he never truly dies. He merely sheds his skin, and the Grange it feeds. The manor itself became a living trap. Rooms shifted, hallways elongated. Doors he had entered would vanish, replaced by solid walls. The oppressive silence was punctuated by the terrifying sound of something enormous, dragging itself through the walls, groaning with an insatiable hunger. Dr. Finch's equipment began to fail one by one. His thermal camera showed nothing but a vast, consuming cold. His EMF reader shrieked with an unendurable static. His carefully recorded footage began to glitch and tears showing fleeting, monstrous visages in the background, faces that looked like Lord Blackwood, but twisted, elongated, their eyes burning with a primal, inhuman malevolence. He realized the true nature of Blackwood Grange. It wasn't just a haunted house. It was a prison, a predator, and a sacrificial altar. Lord Blackwood had not merely died in the manor. He had become part of the manor, sacrificing his lineage, his sanity, and eventually his very humanity to this parasitic entity that fed on fear, on despair, on life itself. The Grange didn't just contain the entity. The Grange was the entity, and Dr. Alistair Finch, the rationalist, the debunker, was simply its next meal. The final moments were a frantic, desperate struggle for survival. Dr. Finch found himself trapped in the manor's crypto-damp, ancient chamber beneath the house. The air was thick with the scent of old blood and a palpable malevolence. Here, amidst crude altars and ancient symbols, he saw it. Not a ghost, but a pulsating mass of flesh and tendrils, shifting and writhing, occasionally forming a grotesque, half-formed human face. Lord Blackwood's face, smiling with teeth like needles, he barely escaped, stumbling out into the gray dawn, his mind shattered, his body battered, his unwavering skepticism replaced by a profound, agonizing terror. He didn't just leave Blackwood Grange. He fled a living nightmare that had etched itself onto his very soul. His final vlog post was a desperate, rambling plea, a warning to anyone who dared to question the true nature of darkness. Dr. Alistair Finch never made another video for the logic of shadows. He vanished a few months later, leaving behind only his chilling footage and the unanswered question: did he finally find the ultimate scientific explanation for Blackwood Grange? Or did the hunger finally catch up to him, pulling him back into the insatiable embrace of the crumbling walls, making him just another part of its eternal, malevolent feast? Blackwood Grange still stands on the desolate moors, forever waiting, and sometimes when the wind howls just right, you can almost hear it, a low, guttural murmur, deep within the stones, whispering the hunger it needs. The Cold War era was a crucible of fear, paranoia, and scientific ambition pushed to its most extreme limits. In the desperate race for global dominance, governments explored every conceivable weapon, even those that defied the laws of physics. Our story takes us to a forgotten corner of this shadow war, Site Lambda 7, deep within the scorching, unforgiving Nevada desert. Facility so secret, its existence was erased from every public record, known only to a select few as Project Chimera. Project Chimera was born from the darkest recesses of military intelligence, an attempt to weaponize the human mind, to turn psychic abilities, telepathy, telekinesis, precognition into a strategic asset. The lead scientist, Dr. Reese Thorne, was a brilliant but morally ambiguous physicist, obsessed with the resonance field, a theoretical energy existing beyond human perception, which he believed could be harnessed. His subjects were not willing volunteers, but individuals deemed expendable dissidents, drifters, and those with documented, if unproven, latent psychic abilities. For years, the facility hummed with unsettling experiments. Subjects were exposed to extreme sensory deprivation, forced to interact with amplified thought forms, and pushed to the brink of their mental endurance. The goal was to break through the ordinary limits of perception, to tap into the resonance field. And for a brief, terrifying period, they succeeded. In 1978, a catastrophic event occurred. During a high-frequency resonance experiment, the facility's power grid overloaded. All contact with Site Lambda 7 ceased. Rapid response team was dispatched, but what they found was not what they expected. The facility was intact, but utterly silent. Bodies, no signs of struggle. Only a pervasive, mind-numbing silence that seemed to hum with an unnatural energy. Every piece of equipment was fried, melted into grotesque, useless forms, and on the walls of the main research chamber, scrawled in what appeared to be dried human blood, was a single chilling phrase: IT hears. The official report blamed equipment malfunction and extreme heat. Project Chimera was immediately declassified as a failure and sealed. Facility became a tomb hidden beneath layers of sand and secrecy, slowly decaying, a forgotten relic of a bygone era. For decades, Site Lambda 7 lay dormant, its secrets buried beneath the shifting sands. its ominous adheres fading into the concrete walls. Until now, our journey begins with Dr. Elias Vance, a disgraced but brilliant structural engineer who stumbled upon encrypted files detailing Site Lambda 7's existence. Obsessed with proving his conspiracy theories, Vance, accompanied by his skeptical but loyal protege, Maya Petrova, venture into the desolate Nevada desert, their mission to locate and document the truth about Project Chimera. What they find is far more terrifying than any government cover-up. The facility wasn't merely abandoned. It was patiently waiting, and something awakened by the very act of their presence was ready to finally begin to feed. Asterisk as Dr. Vance and Maya breached the sealed entrance of Site Lambda 7. They stepped out of the desert heat and into a chilling, timeless void. The air inside was thick with an unnatural stillness, heavy with the scent of ozone and something indescribably metallic. Their Geiger counters immediately spiked, detecting not radiation but an unknown, pulsating energy. The facility was a labyrinth of rusting corridors and sealed chambers. Vance, driven by intellectual curiosity, meticulously documented every detail. Maya, however, felt an immediate, primal dread. The silence here wasn't empty. It was pregnant with 1,000 unspoken thoughts, a chorus of whispering voices that echoed in the back of her mind. Just beyond the reach of comprehension, they discovered the primary research chamber. It was a circular room, its walls lined with charred, melted consoles, still glowing faintly with a residual, unearthly light, and in the center a massive spherical containment unit cracked open, revealing a pulsating core of pure darkness. This was the heart of Project Chimera, the nexus of Dr. Thorne's disastrous experiment. As they approached, the whispers intensified, coalescing into coherent phrases, directly into their minds. Maya heard the desperate pleas of the original test subjects screaming for release. Vance, however, heard something far more insidious, promises of ultimate knowledge, whispers of secrets that would rewrite reality. The entity, whatever it was adapting, twisting their desires against them. The facility began to come alive around them, not with mechanical sounds, but with psychic tremors. Objects would move on their own. Shadows would stretch and distort, taking on grotesque, impossibly long forms. The air would shimmer, and for brief, terrifying moments, entire sections of the corridor would vanish, only to reappear in a different location, disorienting them, trapping them deeper within the labyrinth of the facility's decaying mind. They realized the horrifying truth. The resonance field Dr. Thorne had tapped into was not just energy. It was a sentient entity, a being of pure thought and fear, trapped within the facility by the very experiments that awakened it. Catastrophic overload of 1978 hadn't destroyed it. It had merely sealed it in, allowing it to fester and grow, feeding on the residual psychic energy of its former prisoners, patiently waiting for someone to open the door again. And now, Vance and Maya had opened it wide. The entity's true power wasn't physical. It was mental. It fed on their fear, their doubt, their sanity. It twisted their perceptions, turning comrade against comrade, turning reality against itself. Maya saw Vance's face contoured into a monstrous visage of Dr. Thorne, accusing her of being a subject. Vance saw Maya transform into a grotesque manifestation of his own worst failures, whispering that he was a fraud. They turned on each other, their minds fracturing under the relentless psychic assault. The last recording from their expedition is a horrifying testament to their unraveling. It captures the sounds of their frantic, terrified screams, distorted by the psychic energy of the facility. The final images of Vance, his eyes wide and vacant, staring directly into the camera, whispering, "It doesn't want to leave. It wants to expand." Then the footage cuts to static, then abruptly to a single, unmoving shot of the main research chamber, where the spherical containment unit pulses with an unholy, triumphant light. The whispers are gone, replaced by a single, deafening hum, the hum of a consciousness that has finally awakened and now knows the way out. Site Lambda 7 remains sealed, but the sands shift, and somewhere in the depths of our own minds a new resonance is beginning to stir. Remember Project Chimera. Remember what happens when we try to weaponize the unseen. Because the desert doesn't just hold secrets. Sometimes it holds a hunger. And that hunger, it expands. Don't open the door. Never listen to the whispers. Because once it hears you, it truly hears you.